I'm going to read something from the book of Job, 20th chapter. And I'm just going to show you how the translation you read really makes a big difference. Because a lot of people read the Bible and they say, I don't understand this. I don't know what it's talking about. In fact, I remember the first time I started reading the Bible, parts of it, I would read and I think, what is that saying? It doesn't make any sense at all. Well, maybe that, people say, well, that's because you need God's Spirit to help you understand that. Without that, you can't understand it. So let's take a look in the book of Job, which I haven't studied the book of Job that much because I know that those three companions of Job were saying a lot of hatefulness, baloney, So, but you have to discern, But anyway, let's see if we can understand it in Job, the 28th chapter. Let me read from the King James Bible in the first couple of verses. Are pretty easy to understand. Surely there is a vein for the silver, and a place for gold where they find it. Iron is taken out of the earth, and brass is molten out of the stone. Okay, now that's pretty easy to understand. Let's keep reading and tell me what you think this next verse means. He setteth an end to darkness, and stretcheth out all the perfection, and searcheth out all perfection. The stones of darkness and the shadow of death. Does that make a lot of sense to you? Okay, let's keep going. Verse 4. The flood breaketh out from the inhabitant, even the waters forgotten of the foot. They are dried up. They are gone away from men. Now, isn't that clear? Don't you tell me what you think that means exactly. It's pretty easy, isn't it? Well, let's keep reading. As for the earth, out of it cometh bread, and under it is turned up, as it were fire. Okay, that's not that hard. Okay, the stones of it are the place of sapphires, and it hath dust of gold. There is a path which no fowl knoweth, and which the vulture's eye hath not seen. The lion's whelps have not trodden it, and the fierce lion passed by it. He putteth forth his hand upon the rock. He overturneth the mountains by the roots. He stretches out the rivers among the rocks, and his eye seeth every precious thing. What exactly is this talking about? Is this some kind of a symbolic language that you need God's Spirit to understand? This is Job speaking. Well, let's take a look at the another translation. Now, I'm going to read from the New World Translation because I went to a Goodwill store and there was a bunch of these Bibles. But I got one that was in good condition for just $2, and it's a leather bound, or not leather bound, but it's leatherite or something they call it. But it's in almost a brand new Bible. And so I bought one of these. And the people that made this Bible claim to be God's one and only true religion on the earth today, God's spokesman. So you would think that they would have their translation would make it easier to understand, or that when you read this it would all become clear. So let's read chapter 28 in this translation. Indeed for silver there exists a place to find it, and a place for gold that they refine. Iron itself is taken from the very dust, and from stone copper is being poured out. It's even a little less hard to understand than the King James. Here we are in verse 3, where it was started to get a little hard to understand. An end to the darkness he has set, and to every limit he is searching out. Wow. Stone in the gloom and deep shadow, he has sunk a shaft far from where people reside as aliens. Places forgotten far from the foot, some of mortal men have swung down. They have dangled. As for the earth, out of it food goes forth, but underneath it has been upturned as if by fire. Its stones are the place of the sapphires, and it is gold dust, a pathway. No bird of prey has known it, nor has the eye of the black kite caught sight of it. The majestic wild beasts have not trodden it down solid, and the young lion has not paced over it. Upon the flint he has thrust out his hand, and overthrown mountains from their root. And the rocks he has channeled water-filled galleries, and all precious things his eye has seen. Okay, if you read from those two translations, it's really hard to understand what the heck is talking about. And it doesn't have anything to do with God's spirit of understanding. It's like just trying to understand how they translated it. It makes it very, very difficult to understand. I don't think there's anybody that can understand that without reading a better translation. And I want to read these scriptures now from a translation called Modern Language Translation. And this Modern Language says it translates every single word. It's not a paraphrase Bible. It's a literal translation. And they go back to the oldest manuscripts, the original manuscripts. They don't rely on any other translations, in other words. They translated themselves from the very original languages. Now listen to this. Now listen to this translation, and it all becomes so clear, so easy. Okay, surely there is a mine for silver, and a place where they refine gold. Iron is taken from the earth, and stone is smelted into copper. Men search. Okay, now here's where it got difficult in the King James and in the New World Translation. Men search the limits of dark places, venturing into their remotest bounds to obtain the ore. They drive deep shafts in the valleys and remote places, seldom visited by anyone, and descend into them, hanging to ropes that swing back and forth. From the earth, man obtains his daily bread, but underneath its surface there's blasting as with fire, the molten core under the earth. Sapphires are discovered among its stones, and there is gold dust. The way to such treasures no bird of prey detects, no eagle's eye observes it. No beast of prey treads on it. No lion has set foot there. But man puts forth his hand on flinty rocks and overturns mountains by the roots. He drills channels in the rocks and lays bare precious gems. See, so that now it becomes real. This is all about mining. That's what it's all about, is how man drives shafts down into there. Even in the ancient times they did this. And they hung on underground caves and ropes, dangling, trying to get these gems and things. But if you read the King James and if you read the New World Translation, it just is very, very, I don't know if there's anyone that would come up with, oh, this is about mining. And it's not because you don't have God's Spirit, and it's not because you're stupid. Now, the New World Translation, which was translated by Jehovah's Witnesses, who claim to be the only true religion on Jehovah God's spokesman, you think that if they had such Holy Spirit, if they were such wise and discreet as they say they are, you would think that they would translate this correctly. But it's jumble, it's garbled speech. It doesn't mean anything.